got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems, I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back, tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone and progression, it's all that I wanted. The phone and affection, I summon and dub it. Cause I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems, I solve them. I run through the...
Welcome to the first episode of Problems on Problems. I'm your host, Mike, and gosh, I mean, we might as well just get right into it. You'll find out what the podcast is about along the way, but today's story is a good one. We're going to start off episode 1 with the divorce episode. So let's take this, all right, let's do this. As a disclosure, there's still plenty of there are innocent parties involved in this entire thing, and out of respect and protection for those innocent parties, some events are going to be left out. Some names, we won't change names, we just won't name names. But yeah, we're going to do our best to kind of tell you guys this story and keep everybody innocent kind of protected. But that being said, so your boy was married. I have no idea why I just said your boy, but Mike, was married for 2 years and 2 months. I was in a relationship with this person for a total of 4 years. And honestly, up until about, now mind you, this is all my personal opinion, but up until about, I don't know, the last like 3 months of the relationship, I don't think there was anything wrong. I didn't really see any problems. So a lot of my reactions to what ended up happening were basically that of someone who would be blindsided. Not an excuse or anything like that. I think I'm pretty proud of most of my reaction to this. But without further ado, let's get into it. So we're married, doing our thing, all that stuff. And honestly, the only issue that I had over a course of a couple months or so is that I kept bringing up this feeling that I was getting the leftovers or scraps of her time, which was weird because up until so the however long we were just hanging out / talking phase, the year or so of dating, the year or so of being engaged, and the couple years of marriage, this was completely different. I'd never felt this kind of feeling before. But yeah, it started to get to this theme where I felt like she was doing all this other stuff, and then I would just get the scraps, which wasn't really a good thing. / when you sign up for, when I signed up for marriage, I went under the rules or guidelines of for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I was just like, hey, maybe this is one of those bad things, who knows? But as long as we're talking about it, we're kind of seeing some improvement, we'll be fine. Fast forward to, did anniversary trips, we went on trips with friends, dates and all that stuff, yada yada. Everything seemed kind of good up until this was about, we're gonna say it's end of summer, maybe even Labor Day part of the year, where she goes off on vacation with her best friend / maid of honor, which we've hung out before. She's gone to visit her before, no issues. And everything's kind of going normal, and we had this thing that we, oh my gosh, as Vin Diesel drives by. But we had this thing where, how do I phrase this? But yeah, we had this thing basically where we'd leave each other notes and stuff like that. Cute couple stuff. The stuff that makes you just go, ugh, married people. I can't believe they were in a loving relationship. But yeah, so I would do that. She was gone. I didn't really see our normal, I guess you could say, spot to leave notes at. I didn't really see that notepad anywhere around. So I thought, you know what, Mike? you're going to be super romantic. Let's leave her a love note in her notes in her tablet or her iPad, because she'll get it on her phone. But number two, if she doesn't see it, one of these days when she's writing notes in her iPad, you'll be good to go. Like brownie points, good job, Mike, all that stuff. But what I found was, let's call it disturbing, concerning. I don't know. Fill in the word right here. But yeah, so I found what I could only equate to as love notes, in this iPad. And the dates and times were just like dates, times, and things that were said on there. I'm like, well, this isn't your boy. This has definitely got to be someone else. Because it was just things that like we either weren't together that day, or that stuff, those events never happened between us that she was describing. So like as everyone is going to the hospital right now, I hope you guys are fine. I hope everyone's okay. So yeah, but yeah, it was things on there that like basically just led me to believe like, oh hey, there's someone else in the picture. Which at first would like, someone else in the picture would make sense as to why I was feeling the way I was feeling. Because of all the stuff that I was feeling, it would make sense that there would be somebody else. Like that was the logical kind of explanation to it. So I did what anybody would do, is I called her out on it, and I said, hey, I explained to her the whole thing. Like I was like, hey, I was doing this. I was trying to like do this nice gesture kind of thing. And I found X, Y, and Z. Can you explain what these are about? And so her first response was being defensive. Like, why are you going through my stuff? All that stuff. Now, mind you, in the course of our marriage, we had access to each other's like devices, passwords, everything. Like there wasn't anything to hide. So when I like was met with, and up until that point, there was nothing to hide, and like never a reaction like that kind of thing. And so I thought, number one, that was weird. But number two, she was like, we'll talk about it when I get home. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird because you're what, 4 hours away, 4.5 hours away. And I'm just sitting in this house, like feeling like a complete moron. So I keep bringing it up because in the sense I'm like, listen, we're adults. This is a marriage. Like we're going to talk about this. You don't just get to go away on vacation and then like skirt your problems off to the side. Like this is a big deal. And to that, I was met with like nothing, silence, like, which already is Vin Diesel part 2, which is already like red flag number God knows what at this point. And so I really just got to the point where I was just like, okay, enough is enough. Let's figure this out. Like, what is happening? And so, gosh, a week, or not even, like, this is like day 2 of the week-long vacation. So day 3, 4, 5, and 6, like, I'm just losing my mind, like not being able to sleep, completely stressed out, kind of that stuff. She's not really responding. To which, like, we're having big issues about this. And so the night before she was supposed to return, her BFF, maid of honor, she posts a, is it a Snapchat? I think she posts something on her Snapchat story that she's like with her family in a town or city that is not anywhere close to where they were on vacation. And so I respond to that story. I'm like, oh, like my wife, ex-wife, she didn't tell me that you guys were going to be over in there. No response. The day that she's supposed to return, I get a text that more or less to the effect is like, I'm going through too much, yada, yada. I'll see you tomorrow. And then ghosted. So in my head, my wife literally just disappeared. I found some notes like leading to the idea that there is somebody else or there may be an affair, but then she just ghosts. No, I'm pretty sure she like blocked me at a certain point in time, which is wild to think of now that like your wife would block you. But yeah, so weird fudge. Well, yeah, so that happens. I have literally no idea where my wife is at this point in time. I'm basically losing my mind because I'm like, okay, she's either with that other person, she's hurt, dead, or one of those things. But like, obviously we go to option A, like she's with the other person. Like, yes, I would care to make sure that she's fine and all that stuff. But if she goes MIA, like she's doing it for a reason kind of thing. So I don't think I sleep at all that night. I think I literally wandered around the like uptown Charlotte for like the entire night, literally just like walking or sitting or something like that, because I couldn't stay in my own home because I was just like filled with all this stress and anxiety and all that stuff. But also I was just like, where could you be kind of thing? Like, you're supposed to be back home. Fast forward to, so she shows up almost like, honestly, I would say like she shows up a full 24 hours later than her original like date. Come to think of it, hindsight 2020. Why did I not think to, okay, never mind. But yeah, so she shows up like a full, more than 24 hours later. She explains to me that she's been having an emotional affair with, let's call him, I don't know, some dude, a guy. So she's having an emotional affair with some guy, which to me, emotional, physical, anything like that, it's not much different. Like having an affair outside of your marriage, like, hey, that's like, don't do that. Basically, we'll keep it very simple for you guys. Hey, don't do that. Don't have affairs. If anything, just end your relationship before you cheat on someone. But that's just me. I know, I'm crazy. But yeah, so she explains that to me. And sorry guys, I'm just checking the clock to make sure that I get this all done in the time frame that I want to. She explains to me like who it's about, all this other stuff, emotional affair, all that stuff. And like, I am like livid and hurt at the same time. Like, I'm completely heartbroken that like the person that like you promised forever, I promised forever, would do that to me. And so I'm like going through all these emotions, processing all this stuff. And honestly, at that point in time, I was just like, I don't want to really like look at you or anything like that. Like, I'm just going to sleep on the couch. Hindsight, should have taken the bed because I didn't do anything wrong. But yeah, so she goes to work. I call out of work because I'm just like way too stressed. And as fate would have it, like you could not plan this out any better. I'm not even cleaning. I'm just moving stuff off the counter, and it's comical at this point in time, like when I think about it, but half her purse is like spilled out onto the countertop. And on top of this pile of spillage is a receipt with the homie's name on it with yesterday's date, or the date that she was supposed to come back. So now Mike has hard evidence that receipt guy was with my then wife a day before she was supposed to come home. So I send her a picture of it and I was like, so you want to explain this, or were you really at a hotel like you said you were? And it just crumbles from there. Like a lot of excuses start happening, a lot of like basically defense mechanisms, things that like looking back on it scream like, hey, this is a guilty party. They're doing everything to try and deflect stuff off of them without actually basically without taking responsibility as to what's going on or any accountability. So I'm like, I am done. Not done with the marriage, but I'm just done with the BS. And so that turns into me basically like not really talking to her until she like admits to this and wants to more or less like reconcile this, which does not happen. So that goes on for about a week or two, I want to say, maybe a week, who knows. And I go out of town for a work event, or conference that I had to go to. Not had to go to. I went to. I go out of town. I like think about it, mull it over, all that stuff. I don't even remember like what went on during that conference. Like my brain was nowhere there. Like my brain was completely like in Charlotte trying to figure out like what's going on with my marriage. And so I come back, everything's still basically normal. Not normal, like the new normal, as like she's not really responsive or talking. And I'm trying to like have a conversation, but it's not happening. And an important one, not like any of this BS, like small talk. I'm trying to have like the real conversation of like, why did this happen? What's going on? What do we need to work on? Because honestly, like, yeah, I mean, I was in it for the long haul. Like, even I know a lot of people say like, hey, cheating is no excuse kind of thing. Or like cheating is the final straw. But at the time, I was still in a very set mindset of like, hey, you're just going to have to like suck it up and work through this. Now, mind you, I know that came from a place of me not fully understanding the other side of things, or like understanding the person that I was dealing with, in the sense that I'm like, they did not want to work on this. And so a couple weeks goes by, I get let off of work early, which does not happen in my job. Like, the environment that I am in, you just don't, that's not a thing. Like, you work until like all the work in the day is done, and then you go home. But because, I don't know, fate would have it, who knows, they sent me home early that day. I come into my apartment, and we had gotten into this routine of like, I'd come home, she'd already be there because she lived closer, or worked closer to home, and we wouldn't really say anything. We would like kind of talk or something like that. We wouldn't really like say anything to each other. So I get home that day, and I'm not really thinking anything of it. Like, it's just a normal day, whatever. And I had plans with a friend, a couple of friends actually. I had plans with them like right after work. So I was literally just going into my apartment to change, chill, come back out. So I get in there, I walk into my bedroom, and there are a pair of shoes. And mind you, the amount of shock that I was in, like, I could not comprehend for what felt like forever that those were men's shoes. Like, those weren't like my shoes. They weren't her shoes or anything like that. Like, those were another person's shoes. And then next to those shoes were a pair of shorts and boxers. And so everything starts setting in, but there's nobody to be found until Mike thinks, oh, hey, Mike, you have a freaking walk-in closet. So I Spartan kick the door open. Imagine that in your mind, slow motion. Spartan kick the door open. She is standing there naked, and the door doesn't fully open. So I know someone's behind it. So Mike goes behind the door and basically sees receipt guy chilling there. Now, a little bit of backstory behind that is that once I knew it was receipt guy, I basically tried to find out who receipt guy's wife was, because shocker, receipt guy was married. Receipt guy was married and had a kid. And so I see it's him. I'm in complete shock. I don't remember what exactly I said, but I did ask him if his wife knew what was going on. Because I still hadn't I had found her on social media, but I hadn't reached out because I was in such denial that I was like, hey, you don't want to be that crazy person. Like, you don't want to be that at all. Like, you don't want to be that ever kind of thing. Like, reaching out to somebody else's spouse being like, hey, I think your spouse is having an affair with mine. And so I was in that kind of denial or whatever, but I basically asked him, I was like, hey, and I knew her first name. I was like, does she know? And he said, yeah. And I was like, well then you better leave. I'll save you all the details from after that. I mean, I said a lot of things, as one would. And for some reason, he was trying to put his clothes on, and I had the outer body experience of like taking pictures, I guess, as evidence. But yeah, I had pictures of this while like shoving him out, pushing him out, all that stuff. I'm like, no, you like, this isn't it. You don't get that like chance. Get out. And so push him out. I'm pretty sure he's like half closed at this time. Lock the door. Turn over to my wife, who is now sitting in our bedroom, just chilling. And I basically just asked her, or I said some words. I said, what the you know. But then I also, I just kept asking her, like, when did this start? When did it happen? Things like, questions that you want to know. Because obviously two grown adults don't just hang out in a closet naked. And so she wasn't really telling me anything, to the point where I was so frustrated. Like, I was enraged, like the angriest I've ever been in my life. And she like didn't say anything. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. If you're not going to say anything, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go downstairs because our friends are here. And I'm going to bring them upstairs. And if you're still here, you can explain to them what's going on. She said something to the effect of like, oh, I don't have time to like get clothes or anything. And I was like, I don't care. At that point in time, I did not care what convenienced her or not or anything or inconvenienced her. I wanted her out. I wanted her gone. I wanted her gone from the apartment. And it was literally one of those things where I was just like, I'm going downstairs. I had his shirt. I still had his shirt. So I don't know. I guess he went home without a shirt. I had his shirt semi-ripped. I bring it down to the parking lot where my friends are. And it's so dumb. I literally just like look at them holding the shirt and I'm like, guess who I found in my apartment? And they were like, oh no. So we go up there. She's gone. And yeah, we just kind of try and pick up the pieces from there, which I don't know. We'll skip through all like the BS and everything like that. But basically, I sent the picture over to his wife. She then hit me up and sent me some other evidence that she and her family had found. Basically proving that like they were in constant communication with each other, like series and series of like messages back and forth, picture messages back and forth, all this stuff. And so I knew for sure like, oh, this is like full on, like they're in it. And so the part that came after it, which is really kind of where I got to this point where I was like, okay, this isn't going to work out kind of thing, is that my wife or my ex-wife, she would be telling me like, oh, like I want to work on this, like I want to do like, or all that stuff, like I'm going to get help, yada, yada. Meanwhile, he was telling his wife like, oh no, like we're like, this marriage is done or whatever. Like I want to be with her being my ex-wife. He's like, receipt guy is like, yeah, I want to be with Mike's wife. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, screw the marriage, all this other stuff. Meanwhile, she's saying like, oh no, I'm fixing this. Like Mike and I will get back together kind of thing. And so it wasn't until more or less like it'd be at the point where she would say, oh, I'm going. Now, mind you, this entire time she wasn't living with me, because in the back of my mind, I'd already met with lawyers and stuff like that. And they're like, well, if you're going to kick her out, just make sure that you never, like, unless you guys are going to get back together, do not live with her again, because North Carolina has a beautiful 1 year of separation rule before getting divorced, all that good stuff. And so, like, mind you, while she wasn't living with me, she seemed as though she was attempting to reconcile. So she would tell me like, oh, I did this today. I went here today kind of thing. And it seemed fake. So then I would check our joint account. Word to the wise, if you're going to do sketchy stuff, don't do it in a joint account. That's so stupid. But but yeah, so she would say she's going somewhere, and then I'd see a charge. And then I would get a question. Like, I'd get a text that says, hey, did you see a charge at this location? And then I'd say, yeah, I can only imagine what's going on if two people are using their joint accounts at the same location without their significant other. And so it kept going on like that until I basically was just like, listen, you obviously don't want to make this better or anything like that. You're just like stringing me and everybody along. So let's just cut it at there. But yeah, that's basically what ended up happening. And it was one of those things where after the year had completed and all that stuff, mind you, this woman did not, from the time that I said like, it's obvious that you don't want this to work. And if you're going to run around with your boyfriend, please do it in an account that's not a joint one. She then showed her true colors. Like, I've never seen anyone like nastier or uglier in my life. And it was really just that confirmation that I was like, okay, you did the right thing by cutting the cord kind of thing. I went to like a year and a half of therapy, I think, with like the last few months being like once a quarter kind of thing. But yeah, shout outs to Dr. Rob. The dude is amazing. I would do it all over again if I had to. Not the not the affair or the divorce part or anything like that. Like, if I had to go to therapy again, I would definitely like use him, because it was just one of those things where like I learned a lot about myself. I learned about some codependent tendencies. If you need any help with that or anything like that, I'll leave a link down in the bottom for in the video, I guess, a link down to Codependence Anonymous kind of thing. It's like a group stuff. But yeah, it was kind of the thing where like I learned a lot about myself, where in the next relationship that I had, that was about, the relationship lasted for like maybe a year and a half or whatever. We broke up. It was one of those, it was a lot more mature, and a lot more two-sided of a breakup than the previous thing. So I kind of knew like, hey, this works. Like, it was just a matter of doing the work to understand a little bit more about myself. But yeah, because of that, I guess positives. Let's take let's do positives from there. All the positives. I mean, number one, look at me. We're doing great. But yeah, no, it taught me a lot about myself, and a lot about like past traumas that I was kind of pushing away and stuff like that. But all in all, we're so much more well adjusted. I'm glad it happened in my early 20s, rather than finding this stuff out about a person like years and years down the road. And honestly, thank God I didn't have any kids in the marriage, because like I can't imagine being, I got lucky in the sense that I got a clean break. Like I had zero attachments left to that, which props to Receipt Guy's ex-wife, because she still has to deal with him, them, who knows. But yeah, so that, my friends, is Mike's biggest problem in his 20s was the divorce story. But now you guys know. We might do a part 2. We, as if like there's more than just me here. I might do a part 2 where I answer some of your questions if you guys have them on this. But yeah, that's really about it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to me talk about like the craziest shit that I went through in my early 20s, and maybe you guys come back again. So don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff to Problems on Problems. You can find us. You can find me on Instagram at Problems on Problems Podcast, YouTube, the Problems on Problems channel, and that'll be it. And I'll see you guys on whenever I do episode 2. I'll see you guys. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we will see you guys on episode 2 of the Problems on Problems podcast. Bye.
Problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage, I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone in progression, it's all that I wanted. The phone in affection, I summon and dub it. Cause I got problems I solve them. I run through the